But Jurgen Klopp has been speaking ahead of the trip to Goodison. Trevor, very keen to get your thoughts on this. This is what he said to members of the written media. He says, it's a shame I've got to mention it, but we were the fairest team in England, and most of the time the fairest team in Europe in the past 5 years. It's not a prize that somebody wants to win, but it's still the case. If you play pressing, high press, counter press, the plan is to win the ball, and to win the ball you have to touch the ball. You want to keep playing after that. You don't want to create a free kick or give a foul away. That's why it's normal that we don't make fouls, or a lot of fouls, because it interrupts the game. We want to win you want to win the ball in the right way, and you want to play it from here. We play football, etc., etc. We do it in the right way. But he's saying the intensity of the Merseyside derby is too much for him, and that the fixture's too physical. What kind of messages is Jurgen sending ahead of this one?
Well, I think to start with, he's sending a message to the officials. Obviously we know what happened a couple of years ago with Van Dijk. He ended up missing a whole season through his injury that he picked up with that challenge with Jordan Pickford. But I think also it's one of them games where you're in a good run of form, you're playing well, you've not got many injuries, and you're going into a derby against your arch rivals across the park who are desperate and they're on a terrible run. And you know the storm is coming, and you just want to try and play it down a little bit, but certainly a little bit of mind games for the officials to make sure they manage the game properly. And if there's lively challenges going in early, make sure he pulls them up, looks after the safety of the players, gets his yellow card out and just settles the game. Because derbies can get wild. And for me, as a player, as a coach, when I've coached teams that are playing in a derby, I always send the boys out in a calm way, because you don't need to pick the boys up for that game. Yeah. They already know what it stands for the crowd, for the fans, for everything. Sure. They understand what it means to the city.
I get that, Trevor, but do you think the officials going into this game pay the blindest bit of attention to what Klopp's saying? Honestly, Simon, they will go about their business, I would have thought, in exactly the same way as they go about it in any other game.
Well, you'd like to think so, but people are obviously human beings, and they're aware of all the paraphernalia that goes around these games. You know, the game fixture last year when Pickford left something on Van Dijk was, one of the Liverpool players left a lot on Richarlison as well. It was one of those games. And on one hand, you've got Danny Murphy talking about his approach to that game and how much he looked forward to that game as a Liverpool player and how much the game carried itself. And it was often Everton players that were more keyed up than Liverpool players. Obviously, Klopp talks about the nature of this game. It's the English Premier League that you're in, and the English Premier League comes with these sort of fixtures. It's the lifeblood of English football, these sort of derby fixtures. Obviously, we've seen a changing of the ideals around how referees let games flow, and how there's an element of a slight increase in physicality. I don't know what to make of it. I hate to talk about modern football, but we're looking at players now that are so protected. The game is so almost sanitised now against physicality that I almost find myself looking at Klopp and going, I don't know, it sounds a bit flaky. It's a big game. It's a Merseyside derby. If you can't have a bit of blood and passion in arguably one of the biggest games in English football, really? And you might be right. It might just be a clarion call to the officials to say, manage the game. Keep your heads about you. Yeah. Don't you lot get involved. But that's not his job, is it?
No, of course it's part of a derby like this. The physicality's part of it.
Listen, managing the fans, the expectations and all the rest of that's one thing, because it is going to be an unbelievable atmosphere, as we all know it always is between these two clubs. But if Everton go into the game and they're passive and they get close but don't get physical, they can't win this game. So for me, if I'm Rafa and I'm talking to the Everton players, they have to lay a paw on the Liverpool players straight away.
Yes.
Lay down a marker, let them know you're there, let them know you mean business, and this is not going to be an easy game for them. And you know what? Some of the Liverpool players might not fancy it.
But that's what Klopp is railing against. He says they've got a habit of taking it too far.
But it's a leveller, isn't it? If you can't compete because the Liverpool players individually, collectively are a better team than Everton, especially with the Everton squad being so decimated by injuries, you're not going to get a result unless you get physical, unless you change the way this game is going to be played.
Pickford's challenge last year was ridiculous. on Virgil van Dijk. We all know that it was extremely unnecessary and it was rash and it was irresponsible. But I'm looking at the Everton side and look at it and say, the way they rolled over against Watford, I don't think Liverpool got too much to worry about. If they're going to turn up like that,
well, you've got a point, Simon.
Klopp is not going to have too much to worry about.
Yeah.
But sort of sucking the life out of a game by suggesting that the physicality of English football, and specifically derbies like this, needs everyone to calm down, is a bit... It's not really where I think he should be at. I mean, he can talk about what he wants to talk about. It's his team he's looking to preserve, and I would expect the atmosphere inside Goodison to change very quickly because Liverpool go out straight on the front foot. They'll probably be out of sight by half-time.
Yeah.
And then the atmosphere will change. It'll be a quiet atmosphere and he won't have to worry about the furore from the fans. But these games are what makes the Premier League, in essence, a unique league because it comes with all the passion, commitment and desire that you want to see. And we know that modern football has sort of sapped some of that out. I'm not with Jurgen on this. Yeah, he can put a marker down. His team can be physical as well. His team can be strong as well. And it's part of football. You have to overcome one another. And if you look at the modern footballers and you look at the conditions that they play in, and again, it's not me taking a trip down amnesia lane, but it's a vastly different dynamic, isn't it?
Completely.
Come on now.
It is. It's a totally
It's
different
almost
sport.
laughable when you look about what current... we just talked about Ray Kennedy. Look at the brand of football that he played, a great footballer, but look at the physicality of that sport, of that time, against what we've got now.
Yeah.
It's like men against boys by
but
comparison,
Jurgen's saying, when it comes to physicality, don't look at us, don't point the finger at us. We don't make fouls, really, or a lot of fouls, because it interrupts our game. You want to win the ball in the right way and you want to play it from there. I mean, come on. When it kicks off tonight, Trevor, as it will do at some stage, they will both be equally culpable when it comes to some kind of flare-up.
Listen, any game you go into at any level, if you can't match the intensity and the combativeness and the willing to try and anticipate the second ball better than, or at least compete with your opposition, you're going to find it difficult to dominate and win that match.
Yeah.
So that goes without saying, and he knows that. And actually, I've seen Liverpool start games unbelievably on the front foot. Tenacious in the tackle, the intensity, pick up every second ball.
Yeah.
And I'd expect them to go into that. But what? Listen, he doesn't need this game. He doesn't want to pick up injuries unnecessarily. They've got a squad there that's flying at the moment, and he wants to keep it that way. And he's just trying to take a little bit of heat out.
I mean, Simon, you're a great traditionalist. I think in terms of tradition, matches like this, that little bit of needle that may or may not lead to a bit of a flare-up, that may or may not lead to the odd red card, it's what it's all about,
I know,
isn't it?
But Klopp's looking at it going, we're a different type of side. We've got bigger fish to fry than Everton.
That's it.
Right? And we've got to try and win this league, try and win the Champions League, try and win every single tournament that we're in. And I don't fancy some of our best players getting crocked because Everton have got little to add to the equation besides physicality. Now, I think that's
bragging rights in the city.
But I think that's underestimating Everton. But you cannot take the heat out of a game like this because the fans provide the heat, and the players react to it, and his players will react to it in the same way. And the referees are perfectly capable of refereeing this game without guidance from Jurgen Klopp.
I'll just go back to my career when we played against Manchester United when I was at Manchester City, and it was Patrice Evra's debut. And I think
is that when you regularly get thumped?
And straight away I'm thinking it's a new player to the Premier League. He's about 5'6". I'm leaving a bit on him in the first couple of minutes. As soon as I get a chance, I'm going to try and dominate this player. And because of that, and because of other players in the Manchester City team who weren't as talented, Scholesy, Giggs, they had all the top players playing.
Yeah.
But because we had that physicality, because we had that desperation, we ended up winning the match 3-1. We had no right to win it, and if on a level playing field, if everyone played football and it weren't about physicality, we wouldn't have competed. So at times, especially for Everton, they need to get wired in.
Yeah. Trevor, I'll put this to you. Everton fans in the platform outside Brentford's new stadium on Sunday, I was well aware they were not happy with Rafa. That is for sure. If Liverpool do one tonight on Everton, should Rafa be concerned?
I think he's concerned anyway because they're on a bad run. I think they started the season, he's explained it, they started the season quite well. They were picking up good results. They've had a terrible run of injuries. The squad's not deep enough, and the amount of money that Mashiri's spent on that squad of players as well, it's ridiculous that they've not got a strong squad. And the players that are playing, if everyone's fit, a lot of the players wouldn't be getting a game.
Sure.
So it's a difficult situation for Rafa to be in. He knew he was in this position. He's got poor injury form with, Dominic if Dominic Calvert-Lewin's playing in that team, they would have definitely picked up more points than they have.
Yeah.
So they're missing really key players, but it's one of them where he needs to try and turn it around, because if he doesn't, and if he gets thumped tonight, I can see the fans really turning properly. Not outside inside the
That
stadium
squad is good
and
enough.
really turning them around.
That squad is good enough, irrespective of Dominic Calvert-Lewin's absence, to be able to put on performances against Watford and Brentford and Wolves far better than they were. A disgrace in the second half against Watford. I know Watford were at it and on it and across it and full of beans, despite getting smacked into the next life the previous week. Were across it, but they made Everton look ridiculous in the second half.
Yeah.
You look at the second half, first half performance against Wolves when he called out for a need to react, got a worse performance against Wolves. And there's another in that squad, with due respect to Brentford, who are newbies in the division, to be able to get something out of these games, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough on Benitez's part.
That's right.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.